Good morning, you guys. I'm going to help you work on your Utkatasana or chair pose, translated awkward pose. We're going to make your chair pose not so awkward. So yesterday I had the beautiful perspective of being a student in a class instead of a teacher at a local class that was a freebie class at the farmer's market that I took yesterday. And I like to practice as a student in the back corner of the room, and I was working through the practice and just enjoying it and in the moment, and we came up into chair pose, and as I was kind of gazing out forward, I noticed the gal in front of me, and beautiful gal, she was doing this deep lordosis curve in her back, and she had her chest shot forward, and the teacher in me came out and was like, oh, there's a crunch in the lower back, it's getting compressed in the lower disc space, and all that energy is getting thrown out and wasted there. And I just, like, the teacher in me wanted to come up and help and do something. And so I also had the other beautiful perspective of, at that moment, I stopped and stayed present and looked around the rest of the class, and I saw, gosh, there are like 10 or 15 other students that are having this same challenge in chair pose or Utkatasana or awkward pose. And I thought this is something that definitely people can learn from. So hopefully we're gonna make your chair pose, your Utkatasana pose, not so awkward with these tips. So Utkatasana or chair pose is beautiful in that it helps you work on your Tadasana feet foundation. And if you pull that strength and energy all the way up, it helps work on getting grounded in the lower body and working on balance and working on strength, and also this beautiful extension into the upper body. What we want to do is build that foundation from the way up, so by the time we hit the tippy top of that pose, we have the heavy condensed energy down, and it just slowly melts up, and we can extend without causing that crunch in the backpack area of our back. Because oftentimes, and you can use these tips in warrior poses, in triangle poses, and all sorts of standing poses, but what happens is we usually get into these postures and we get up here and we're reaching, and we're crunching up into the upper back. And so this kind of helps you alleviate that. You don't want to come into a class and the number one complaint I get is, oh, loosen up my shoulders and upper back, and then you get into a warrior or a chair pose and you're like, exacerbating that situation. So we want to alleviate that so you can kind of feel that yummy, light, delicious neck and shoulders. And then the other thing is, this is what chair pose often looks like, and this is what I was seeing yesterday in that class that I went to, is we come into chair pose and we don't come into the strength of the lower body, so we're like, oh, this is how I cheat. I throw the hips out, I jot my chest forward. So now my low back is, the vertebrae in my low back are just getting crunched and compressed, and then I'm shooting all that energy out so that I can open up, and I'm like, I'm beautiful in chair pose. But as I'm beautiful in chair pose, I'm crunching up through my back and doing all sorts of nastiness there. So we want to get rid of all that and build the pose from the ground up. So when you start chair pose, you start in Tadasana feet about hip width apart, maybe a little wider if you want a little more stability in your stance, and build it from the ground up. So come down, put your hands on a block or your hands to the floor, hands to the shin or the thighs, however low you can drop your hands, but really sink in. And what you want to do is press down into the feet to become buoyant and lift up through the buttocks and the hips. And you'll find that as you use the earth as a tool to press against, your hips and your upper body start to become a little more buoyant, and you start to use the strength of your quads and glutes. And then as you start to pull yourself up, you're pressing down into the earth, you're going to pull into the belly and kind of tuck the tailbone under a little bit. Instead of that lordosis curve, you're going to tuck the tailbone under a little bit and then build the posture up from there. And by the time I get up here, I'm like, oh, shoulders are nice and loose, and there's no crunch in my neck, and there's no crunch in my lower back, and I have stability. So I'm pressing down to come up, drawing into the belly, extending up. And you can add any variation you want here. I could stay all day in this pose. So we have two postures that are common with our low back, and that is lordosis or kyphosis. And when we're in chair pose, we tend to jump to lordosis because it's the cheat route. It's the first way our body can go, oh, how can we modify this quickly? And when we do that, we throw the chest forward and the hips back, and we're throwing all that energy out. And it's kind of an egoic pose, you know? It's like you see a lot of yogis do this. I don't think they mean to, but it actually can invoke your ego, and it can extend energy outward that you don't want to bleed out. But then the opposite of that is that kyphosis, so that closed down, that introverted, that rounding of the shoulders. So yoga is all about finding balance in our spine, where we can press down into the feet. Every posture we do, press down into the feet, come up tall, pick up your shoulders. There's a difference between this kind of posture and picking up the shoulders, dropping them back, and feeling the length and the strength in the upper body, but not jotting those hips back. Finding that neutral, finding that center with your pelvic tilt in the posture, so that you're still strong and standing up tall, and you're extending in your correct body alignment through the spine, and you're not leaking energy, and you enjoy the posture. It doesn't become awkward or Utkatasana pose anymore. It becomes chair pose.